Good morning and thank you so much for joining us on Africa This Morning. It is the 21st of May 2014. Let's start the bulletin with a look at the leading stories.
Public university students strike over hiked university fees turns violent, causing chaos in the CBD.
The president should immediately fire the Attorney General if he, the president, has the goodwill of Kenyans at heart.
Kenya civil society demands the sacking of Attorney General Githum Muigai. Malawians head to the polls as Joyce Banda attempts to defend her presidency.
We start in East Africa. A protest organized by the student leaders of the University of Nairobi turned out to be chaotic as police and students engaged in running battles in Nairobi's central business district. The students took to the streets to protest alleged hiked university fees by the Education Ministry. Sam Gakunyi was in Nairobi for the better part of the procession and he brought us the report.
At around 10 a.m. in the morning, university students took to the streets of Nairobi. They have one thing in common. They are protesting against the alleged plan to hike university fees, allegations denied strongly by the Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kimenyi, saying that he was misquoted. They are also demanding for his resignation.
Comrades are fighting for 50% fee reduction, and that one must be achieved. It must be achieved. They are planning to decrease our help by 25,000. That one we cannot also accept. You can imagine.
Businesses were paralyzed, where many business people were forced to close their premises to avert looting and destruction. For the better part of the day, this is what was witnessed. Running battles between the police and the students. As if not enough, the students started hurling stones at the police. The police in retaliation gave the students a taste of their medicine.
The standoff between the students and the police has gotten into this. Police are using tear gas canisters.
The aftermath of the protest can best be told by clear and impassable roads in one hand and traffic snarl-ups in Nairobi busiest roads on the other hand.
This is Uhuru Highway joining Wayakiwe to my right, and as at 1 o'clock this morning, these two roads were completely impassable following the standoff between police and the students.
Ibrahim Ahmed is a long-distance driver who camped in a traffic jam for 6 hours since the chaos began.
I'm worried. If chaos by any chance brings these rowdy youths towards me, I will run away and leave this lorry here.
Over 20 students were arrested, including the Nairobi University student leader. Others were arrested after police stormed the University of Nairobi classrooms.
It is a well-planned thing to frustrate us over we addressing our issues. And we as students, we only want to have fees that is, well, I mean, we can afford. We don't want fees that we can't afford.
The students stand their ground that university fees should be lowered. Sam Gakunyi, Ebro Africa News, Nairobi, Kenya.
Coming with the latest update from the Thika Highway blast in Nairobi, Kenya, the Kenyan police are holding an 18-year-old man whom they say confessed to planting explosives in matatus that killed 3 people on the Thika Superhighway. The police sources said both the explosives were detonated from mobile phones. The suspect is expected to appear in court this week, according to sources in the anti-terrorism police unit who spoke on condition of anonymity, as they were not authorized to speak to the press. The police sources said the attackers brought 4 SIM cards in Kayole on the fateful day and registered them in a friend's name. The improvised explosive devices, according to the detectives, were triggered using mobile phones after they had been planted in 2 buses. They said the teenager was traced to Kiamaiko slums by detectives who had visited the scene of the explosion. According to investigators, the suspect received a deposit of 85,000 to carry out the attack and later 135,000, which was transferred to his father's mobile phone from an agent in Moyale. The suspect has disclosed that he was with an accomplice who is yet to be traced. Kenya's civil societies have called for the sacking of Attorney General Githu Muigai, citing incompetence. The activists say Muigai failed to defend the state in the controversial Anglo-leasing case. Aneta Kisa with the details.
Just a day after Kenya's Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai came out strongly defending himself against allegations that he has been a letdown and not been able in his capacity to defend Kenya from paying the UK companies huge amounts of money in the Anglo-leasing case, civil society groups have started calling for his resignation. Led by the chair of Kenyans for Justice and Development, Okia Omtata, the activists say they are enraged by the manner in which the state's law officer conducted the case.
We proceed to add that the president should immediately fire the Attorney General if he, the president, has the goodwill of Kenyans at heart. He has already passed a verdict that they are incompetent. He said that the other day. The AG does not require a tribunal to be removed from office. The AG serves at the pleasure of the president.
The activists have further cautioned the government against entrusting the mobile company Safaricom with a 15 billion shillings project whose goal is to oversee the national security communication system.
Over this scam they are bringing upon us on Safaricom, whereby they are saying that Safaricom, a private company whose ownership is even shrouded in the mystery, where some people like Mobitale are not known, are going to be in charge of the security of Kenyans. That one we say no. No, nada, never. It will not happen, whether the president likes it or not.
The project, which is supposed to help the government in fighting increased cases of insecurity in the country, will be run in phases for the next 5 years. The activists have given the AG's office and the Interior Ministry an ultimatum to respond to their letters in 48 hours.
So we have written giving the AG and the Interior Minister 48 hours to explain themselves why, on top of they are reviving this scam, which was defeated in the courts. They even wrote a letter to the police after we defeated them in the courts. There's a letter here from Mutai Ringo. They wrote a letter telling the police now constitute a team of experts to put up so that we can tender for this process.
The activists say it is unacceptable and unprofessional to put the country's security in the hands of a business entity. They have warned that they will organize for mass action demanding the Attorney General's removal from office if their concerns would not have received any response in the next 7 days.
So what we're going to tell Kenyans is, since we have highlighted what is happening, let them be behind us as we mobilize Kenyans to kick Githu Muigai out of office, because if we continue to have Githu Muigai in the office, it is like the country will be auctioned while we are watching.
Safaricom is expected to build 60 long-term evolution base stations in Nairobi, 20 in Mombasa, and install 1,800 CCTV damage-proof high-definition and ultra-high-definition cameras across the 2 cities that have recently become the targets of terrorist attacks. Akisa Wandera, Ebro Africa News, Nairobi.
Still on political matters in the country, as the country awaits the report on investigations into what led to the botched ODM elections 2 months ago, ODM Senator Elizabeth Ongoro, who was vying for the position of Secretary General for the party, now wants her opponent, Budalangi MP Ababu Namwamba, to be investigated over the mayhem that ensued that fateful day, courtesy of the alleged goons, to take full and absolute responsibility. And as Brenda Zeda reports, the tribunal that was formed to investigate the incident is expected to submit its report this month.
We want the register brought here before election is done.
Senator Ongoro has refuted allegations that the combative men in black at the ODM party elections that were held in Kasarani were acting on her instructions and executing a carefully crafted script. Ongoro alleges that ODM Central Province Commissioner Peter Kuguru and Ababu Namwamba were not in the dark regarding the presence and the role of the men in black at the polls. The men in black caused the ODM elections to be halted a few minutes after a handful of delegations had cast their votes. She claims that there was an elaborate plan to disrupt the elections.
Order! It is not a secret who called the men in black to take positions and who was holding the microphone. It was Commissioner Peter Kuguru who called, and it's men in black, come forward, take positions. It was not wise for one of the other contestants to come out a few hours after the incident to give a report mentioning adversely fellow competitors or other members of the party ODM. It was not good for the party, not good for his own politics.
Addressing a press conference at her office on Tuesday afternoon, Ongoro further questioned the credibility of the task force investigating the butchered ODM elections. Ongoro has the benefit of doubt that the report of the tribunal will be fair.
A team was put in place to investigate and to present to us as a party what exactly transpired. And therefore, I did not intend to jeopardize that investigation by making statements that could be contrary or that could be leading. I was silently and quietly waiting to hear and to get their verdict. So far, we are still waiting for them to present their findings. We hope that they are going to do that maybe in the course of this week, I don't know, or as soon as our party leader comes back, I don't know. But to be honest, I am one of the people who is eagerly waiting to know exactly what happened at Kasarani.
ODM party leader Raila Odinga unveiled a team on March 6 to carry out independent investigations and make recommendations on the circumstances that led to the eruption of violence. The question on the excess number of people who attended the National Delegates Conference raised serious concerns, with the Secretariat being blamed for failure to manage the accreditation.
There is no elections. We want the register brought here.
Well, who is to be blamed for the chaos that erupted during the ODM party elections that were held early this year in Kasarani? Now that Senator Ongoro has refuted claims that were leveled against her by Budalangi MP Ababu Namwamba. Now all that ODM party members can wait for is for a report that is expected to be released by the party election board early next week. Reporting for Able Africa News, I'm Brenda Zeda in Nairobi.
Further south in the continent, Malawians took to the polls yesterday in an election that saw 11 candidates vie to unseat President Joyce Banda, the Southern African country's first female head of state, who came to power 2 years ago. In the run-up to the elections, most analysts have ranked Banda as favourite because of her popularity in the rural areas where the government has been rolling out development projects and farm subsidy schemes. Farmers expect an 8% rise in the maize harvest this year, giving the aid-dependent state a surplus of millions of tons, while a devaluation of the kwacha currency has ended fuel shortages, although it has sent inflation soaring and dented Banda's popularity. In her first months in office, Banda enjoyed huge goodwill among the landlocked nation's 13 million people who grew to hate her predecessor Bingu wa Mutharika's autocratic style. But Banda, who grew up in a village in southern Malawi, saw her popularity wane after she imposed austerity measures, including the kwacha devaluation, to stabilize the economy. More recently, her reputation for probity has been hit by a $15 million corruption scandal dubbed Cashgate, after the discovery of large amounts of money in the car of a senior government official that soured relations with donors. Banda's main challenge is from Lazarus Chakwera, a conservative evangelical pastor who retired from the church last year to take the helm of the Malawi Congress Party, the former British colony's first ruling party. Mutharika's younger brother Peter is also running as the head of the Democratic Progressive Party, as is Utupele Muluzi, the son of former President Bakili Muluzi. Allegations of vote-rigging plots have been rife, although Banda has rejected them. Malawi-based diplomats say the problem does not appear as big as Banda's challengers make it out to be. The United Nations has warned that Somalia is at risk of facing serious food shortage due to the ongoing drought, rising food prices, and the threat posed by the Al-Qaeda-linked terror group, the Al-Shabaab. Let's get more on that story.
Thousands of residents in Somalia are at risk of facing starvation. The situation has been worsened by a funding shortfall that is forcing agencies to scale down humanitarian work when it is needed most.
We desperately need funding to avoid this emergency. And we cannot wait for the crisis to be declared to get funds and respond.
In 2011, Somalia faced a serious food shortage that was declared a national disaster. UN humanitarian coordinator for Somalia, Felipe Lazzarini, has said the current situation in Somalia has troubling similarities with that experienced 3 years ago.
We're receiving more and more early warnings, alert about the food security situation, which is most likely to worsen in the coming few months, due to a combination of a delayed rain, the military offensive, disruption of the planting season, and also because of the fact that the number of newly accessible areas are for the time being completely surrounded.
The UN says at least 2 million Somalis are already dealing with food shortages and more than 200,000 children are acutely malnourished. And it says the situation is likely to worsen in the coming months.
We were able to gather this and we are calling now to the member state for $60 million to be released now. This is what we need today. This is what we need to maintain key safe living operation in the country.
Those at high risk of starvation are displaced people and those living in the areas of Lower Shabelle, Middle Shabelle and Bay region, the same areas hit hard by the last famine.
We will with this make sure that we can transport assistance in the various, let's put it like this, less accessible area by road in South Central. We will also make sure that water, can be provided, and more, and we will also make sure that the vaccination campaign, can.
A military offensive to drive the Al-Shabaab fighters out of areas under its control is creating additional challenges, since the fighters are threatening truck drivers and cutting off supply routes to newly seized towns. The UN has requested $933 million to fund humanitarian activities in Somalia this year, but so far has received only 18% of that amount.
To West Africa, police have foiled a second suicide bomb attack in Kano after a blast ripped through a busy entertainment spot in Nigeria's second city, killing 4. The authorities said it was too early to say who was behind the first blast in the predominantly Christian Sabongari district, which has previously been targeted by Boko Haram militants.
Local government elections were held in Kano on Saturday and saw the main opposition party rout the ruling party of President Goodluck Jonathan. The scene of the blast on Middle Road was cordoned off behind yellow tape, with dozens of armed police and soldiers on guard and allowing only local residents back home.
The security situation around the area is still fluid. Presently, the affected location is an active crime scene and a military operational area.
Forensic specialists were seen working at the scene, gathering together the fragments of the Volkswagen Golf car thought to have been used in the attack. Detectives were combing the scorched and blood-stained ground, which was littered with broken plastic chairs and tables from the many roadside bars and restaurants in the popular area.
Any organization wishing to visit Chibok or any other area should please approach the appropriate authorities for guidance and advice the interests of their safety and protection.
Last July, a series of explosions rocked Sabon Gari, killing 12 with outdoor bars, the apparent target. The military at the time blamed Boko Haram.
Right now I'm going to Kano, and I'm even close to where the bomb explosion is. And I used to enter there. So the only thing I can say now, I will just only say, let everybody in Nigeria, not even Kano, all the Nigerians, we have to be praying, Christian and Muslim. We have to be praying for us to stay peace in Nigeria.
Northern Nigeria has been hit by 5 years of increasingly bloody attacks at the hands of Boko Haram and a mounting civilian death toll.
Egyptian presidential candidate Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met on Monday with Saudi Arabia's Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, as well as a number of Egyptian actors. The leader's widespread support goes down to his roots, with Egyptians from the neighborhood where Sisi grew up saying he will be a good leader, but they also warn that people will rise up against him if he fails.
In the narrow, bustling streets of Cairo's ancient Gamaliel neighborhood, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is a hometown hero. His supporters see him as a savior who can end the political turmoil dogging the country since the popular uprising ended Hosni Mubarak's rule in 2011. They point to the humble beginnings of the man now on the verge of becoming Egypt's next head of state. A local barber says Sisi is just what the country needs.
What we need now is a leader, a military man, because that is who would rule the country well. Nothing but a military man will do. Did we get rid of Mercy just to bring in another man like him? That doesn't work. What we need is the man who rescued the country. The man who truly rescued the country when it was drowning is Abdel Fattah el-Sisi.
But even his supporters worry that Egyptian voters could turn on him if he doesn't quickly improve their lot.
The Egyptian people are now aware. They have risen up against two leaders and brought them down. They could rise up against you, Sisi, for the third time if you don't go down the right path.
Sisi played a prominent role in the interim government following the ouster of President Mohamed Morsi. Rights activists say the last 10 months have been characterized by severe abuses by the security forces and restrictions on free expression. Supporters see it the other way, that the man who ousted Morsi rescued the nation from a cult of religious extremists who hijacked the 2011 revolution.
And with that story, we come to the end of the Bulletin on Africa this morning. Join us next as we take a look at other stories taking the lead on our social media platform segment on Trend.